5-gallon bucket, 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 5-gallon bucket. What's up? Welcome to Slowsteading. Today we're building a 5-gallon watering bucket, and it's gonna cost us very little money. Let's get started. Let's make sure we got all our supplies handy. Of course, we got our 5-gallon bucket. 5-gallon bucket. Dill pickles with garlic. It's been washed, it's been cleaned, it's ready to go. And I've got a ruler, some drill bits, of course my drill. I've got a measuring tape, Sharpie, plumber's tape, and my chicken nipples. These are super handy. Got them from Amazon. Got a link in the description below. First thing we're gonna do is mark our holes for where we wanna put the nipples onto the bucket. You'll wanna mark your bucket so that they're perfectly evenly spaced around. I've got this really long ruler. Just measure straight across here and put a little mark just on the lip at each side. So just right here and just right here. And then I'm gonna go the other way. Mine has some text here, so I can use those as a reference point to get perfectly evenly spaced nipples. We're gonna measure 1.5 inches up from the bottom. Just get my tape measure out and I measure 1.5 inches. Just mark that spot. We'll do that to all 4 sides. Good. Now we've got our sides all marked 1.5 inches from the bottom. Next up, we'll get our drill ready here. I've got this stepped drill bit, which is pretty handy, but you can use a standard drill bit as well. It has a tapered, threaded little bung here. So you just need to make the hole big enough for it to get started, and then you can screw it on the rest of the way and it'll sit nice and flush. And I'll just test. I just need to go a little bit bigger. Perfect. I just need to be able to get the nipple started and then it'll twist in the rest of the way on its own. But before I do that, I'm gonna drill out all the other holes. Great. So I've got all 4 of my holes ready here. We can start to connect the nipples. Quickly gonna knock out all the little plastic shavings. We don't want that in our water. Those can clog up our nipples, and we don't want our chickens eating little bits of plastic either. That's all good. All right, so as I mentioned before, these nipples are threaded. They just kind of screw in like this. But before I do that, I'm gonna put a little bit of this stuff on. This is plumber's tape, and the reason I do this, it just makes a tighter seal, because if this thing's dripping out, you're gonna have a wet coop and your water's not gonna last as long. If I just add a quick wrap of plumber's tape, that prevents that problem. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I can take my nipple and begin to thread it in here. This extra long nub is designed to face downwards. So you'll want to twist this in as snug as you can get it, but make sure you leave that facing the bottom of the bucket. And it just tightens itself as it screws in. And there you go. It's nice and snug with the bucket. And we'll just repeat that with the rest of the nipples. So I've got all 4 nipples on and we're almost done, but there's one last thing we want to do. We're gonna take the lid and I'm just gonna drill a small hole in the top of the lid. Because what happens is if the lid is airtight and we put it on, water won't be able to flow through the nipples. So by drilling just a small hole in here, we'll be able to have some air inflow here, which will allow the nipples to flow freely. Just a small hole, about 1/4 of an inch is all you need. Perfect. Let's go do a check for water tightness. Then we'll give this to the chickens. Now that I've got the bucket full of water, I'm just gonna do a quick leak test. Just a visual inspection. So far it looks like it's all good. You can also check that the water is flowing. Oh yeah, beautiful. Sometimes as well, you might get a defective nipple in your batch. It's also possible that the outlet gets jammed with some dirt or a piece of plastic. So if your nipples are leaking, take a look inside, make sure it's not defective or jammed, clogged with dirt. Or you can even try swapping it out. But I think we're good to go. So I've got the water elevated on a large planter pot here. The nipples have to be at the bottom of the bucket in order to allow the water to flow and to get the most water out of the bucket. I have these large planter pots that happen to fit just perfectly. Got my feeder over there and the water here. This is a good height for the chickens to be able to drink from. In order for your chickens to know that this is the waterer, you want to start each nipple flowing. And then once there's a few drops on the lip of each one, your chickens should hopefully get the hint and start drinking from it. Hey chickies. Well, that's it. 5-gallon watering bucket.
5-gallon bucket
is complete. Not much left to do, but just sit back and watch the birds. Ah. My favorite thing to do.